This is Richard Wolff from Democracy at Work, responding to another Ask Prof. Wolff question from our Patreon community. This one comes from Jordan McClay and asks, why don't we prohibit those corporations who do not pay taxes from having lobbyists? And Jordan's idea is clear. Profits of corporations these days lead almost all of them to pay big bucks to hire professional lobbyists to represent this company or that industry or that wealthy community. The lobbyists go to the mayor's office or the state house or the federal government, and they lean on politicians, providing them with urgings, providing them with funding, providing them with research, whatever they need to get what these corporations want. And sure, American corporations love the ideology that the government is a waste of time, and the government is a burden, and the government is you name it. But they're in fact all the while spending huge amounts of money, to shape what the government does. The government impacts their bottom line. They know it, and they're going to spend money to make that impact positive for their profits, whatever damage it does to the rest of society. So we know that. And we know that the profit drive is the heart of capitalism. That's why they say things like, profit is our bottom line, or we're in business to make profit, or that's what we're here for, or 100 other ways of saying it. So if you took away lobbyists, well, they'd come up with something else. Maybe they'd call them advisors. Maybe they would arrange fancy hotel stays for politicians where they just happen to have a seminar in which, something gets said, drinks get had, etc., etc. Every reform of capitalism like this has been evaded, watered down, or undone in the history of this system. Profit is a powerful motivator. So let's deal with that, because that, in the end, is the problem. Why do you hire a lobbyist? Because what that lobbyist can do, a law prevented, a law passed, whatever, will impact your profits. So now let's ask the basic question. So what? What is this fetish of the profit? Companies are terrified if their profits go down. People will stop investing in the company if its profits go down. Vendors they do business with will demand payment right away, because if the profit's going down, does bankruptcy lurk down the road? But let's suppose we made a change. Suppose we said the decisions governing a business are not going to be made to rise and fall on profit. After all, profit is the small part of the revenue of a business that goes into the hands of the richest of the rich, the owners of the shares, the top executives, the highest paid people in the society. To maximize profit in a business is to maximize what goes to a small minority of the richest people who actually need the profits least. What are we doing making the lives of the majority employees and the impact on society for all of us depend on the decisions of a small minority who's aiming to get their hands on the small portion of the revenue that's called profit? Suppose we had a different system. Suppose it worked like this. If your profit goes down in this system, we assume that there's less interest in, less demand for, less need for whatever it is you're producing. But don't worry, your business can be easily wound down without a big to-do. We, the government, will find other jobs for the people who won't work anymore in this business because its profit has gone down for a few years. We're going to move them to other parts of the economy where we need more people, places where profits are going up, for example, or places where we have a tangible, clear social need, and will allow workers to move, and they won't lose any income during the move because we want the benefits to society of being able to move them, getting them to where the stuff they do is useful and away from where the stuff they produce is no longer desirable, interesting, or useful. Come on, folks. We don't hang on profits. We don't need to do that. That's a very peculiar system. It reminds me, of course, of slavery, when everything happened for the minority of people called masters. And everyone thought that was reasonable because, after all, the majority of people, the slaves, were just property of the master, like the donkey or the plow or anything else. It was property. But we don't have slavery anymore, and that means we don't have to be enslaved to a tiny minority that we call employers, who suddenly, because they're all fixated on profit, want to make everything that happens depend on how much profit they can get. Let's relieve them of all that anxiety, and along the way, a good bit of the wealth they have too. And let's make it useful for everybody. Let's move people around, give them a chance to choose where they would like to go if the particular activity that they're engaged in no longer needs that many people. And let's be clear, that risk already exists. Every job any of you has could disappear next week, next month, next year if demand disappears or a new technology arrives. We all know that there are risks. But what I'm proposing is a system that deals with that problem and says, don't you worry. If the particular activity you're involved in needs to be reduced or shut down, that's not anything for you to worry about. We will give you a menu of other things you can do. We will pay you to make the transition. If it requires you to physically move, we'll help you do that too, because it's in the interest of society to do that and to stop holding us as a society hostage to the minority of profiteers who run this system as totally as masters ever ran a slavery. Thanks for your listening, but we have something we want to ask of you. Partner with us. Share this video with anyone you think might be interested. Extend the reach this kind of work has. And if you can, be supportive financially. We ask that too for the team that makes all this possible. Partnership and support. We welcome it, and in advance, we thank you for it.